brain power and vibrating, and all the other functions which is mentioned under the muscles is basically its property or generation of power. The derivation of the word muscle came from the muscular biceps with a thin tendon resembling a small mouse. That's why the name muscle. And based on the international classification, it says skeletal muscle should be correctly called as multinucleated muscle. Smooth muscle should be called as spindle-shaped muscle. Highlight muscle should be called as branched muscle. Muscle and its continuation has connected tissue tendon. Muscles can either begin with the tendon or end with the tendon, or may have both beginning and endless tendons, or they have neither beginning nor endless tendons. Tendons may or may not be there. But if it is there, it occupies very less space and it requires very much less nourishment. The fixed attachment to the muscle is called as muscles are named based on location, function, shape, direction of fibers, number of heads, points of attachment, and size of the muscle. 7 points by which muscles are named. Biochemically, there is a red muscle and a white muscle, subdivisions of skeletal muscle, depending on the amount of myoglobin it contains. More myoglobin, more red. Less myoglobin, less red. In humans, they have found out a muscle is a mixture of not too much myoglobin, not too less myoglobin, intermediate muscle, which has got properties intermediate to that of the red and white muscle. Red muscle, slow but sustained contraction for a long duration because it has oxidative metabolism. Fast muscle, easy fatigability, but much faster action because it is glycolytic pathway. And the intermediate muscle, partially oxidative, partially glycolytic pathway. So when you are running a marathon, type 1, red muscle. When you are running a 100-meter sprint, type 2B, then the white muscle. Type 2A is the intermediate muscle for 400, 800, 800 meter run race. Today we are going to discuss morphology of muscle as the external form. Muscles are classified into two main groups, parallel and pinnate. When you are seeing the dissection of muscle, what you are seeing, if you carefully look at the muscle closely, what you are seeing is muscle fasciculi, not individual fibers. Individual fibers can be seen only under microscope. A bunch of fibers put together is called a fascicle, which is covered by perimycium. The whole muscle is covered by epimycium. Carefully look at the fasciculi. The fasciculi can either be parallel to each other, then the muscle is called parallel muscle, or they can look like a leaf, then it's called as pinnate muscle. The word P-E-N-N-A, penna, means leaf. Don't confuse with P-I-N-N-A, pinna, which means external ear. This is penna, pennate, leaf-like. If you look at the upper figure, there is a muscle which is parallel, some parallel. The second figure is parallel with intermediate digitation. That intermediate digitation increases the muscle number. Otherwise, parallel fibers are long. But with intermediate digitation, they become 4 times the number of parallel fibers because there are 3 intermediates. Another type of muscle, which is called as convergent muscle, it's also called as triangular muscle because broad origin, narrow insertion. But essentially, if you look at the fasciculi, each one is nearly parallel to the adjacent fasciculi. Although it's a triangular shape, adjacent fasciculi are nearly parallel to each other. So convergent muscle is also a type of parallel arrangement. Fusiform muscle, the lower one left hand side, fusiform. Fusiform, adjacent fasciculi are again nearly parallel to each other. Although it's tapering at both ends, making the muscle a spindle shape, but adjacent fasciculi are nearly parallel to each other. Yet another muscle, lower second, spiral muscle. Spiral muscles also, adjacent fasciculi are nearly parallel to each other. That is also coming in the way of parallel musculature. Lower right, the sphincteric muscle, circular muscle, again adjacent fasciculi are parallel to each other. The upper one, 3 figures which are shown, is the line of muscle pull and the direction of muscle fibers are oblique to each other. The line of muscle pull is shown by the white tendon, which will be either eccentric or in the central. If it is eccentric white tendon and the oblique line of muscle pull joining the white tendon from one side, it is called as unipinnate muscle. When fibers join it from both the sides, it is called bipinnate muscle. Series of bipinnate lying side by side makes it as multipinnate muscle. And what is not shown here, a fourth type of muscle, multipinnate muscle, is central tendon, muscles fiber converging from all sides. Muscle fibers converging to the central tendon from all sides is called as circumpinnate muscle. The only example in the body is a lower limb leg muscle, which is called as tibialis anterior. Tibialis anterior is based on tibia attachment, anterior location. It shows that it's arising from tibia and is present in front of tibia. Is it clear? What did you say? If the adjacent fasciculi are parallel or near parallel to each other, they are all classified as parallel groups. Whereas if there is a tendon and the line of muscle pull is oblique to it, then it is called as pinnate muscle. A bipinnate muscle is shown as an example here. Line of muscle pull is vertical, direction of muscle fasciculi are oblique. So automatically it's called as bipinnate because it's joining the central tendon from both sides. If it was joining from one side, it will be called as unipinnate. Actually the word pinna means a leaf. So bipinnate is actually truly leaf-like. And the unipinnate is actually half a leaf. So the correct name instead of unipinnate should have been semipinnate. And bipinnate should have been called as pinnate. So the bipinnate is a leaf, unipinnate is half a leaf. But then we call it as unipinnate and we call this as bipinnate. And series of bipinnate lying side by side makes it multipinnate. Does the pinnate muscle lose its potency? Muscle pull is oblique. The muscle fasciculi is at a different angle. So doesn't it lose its potency? The line of muscle pull is shown by the arrow which is pointing upwards towards the right, which is resolved into two vector components, one in the direction of muscle pull, one at right angles to it. So you will expect that part of the power is lost in pulling the tendon sideways. Let us see how much is the loss. The angle between the vertical line and the oblique line is generally lesser than 30 degrees. Vertical line, line of tendon pull, oblique line, line of muscle fasciculate pull. The angle between the two is less than 30 degrees. If you remember your vectors taken long back, whether 12, 10, whatever, the vertical pull, the tendon pull is muscle pull into cos of the angle between the two. And the right angle pull is a sine. How much is cos 30? Cos 30? 0.87. How much is cos of an angle slightly lesser than 30? Higher than that, 0.9. So, a pinnate muscle is 0.9 times efficient if it had been parallel, which means 90% of the potency is there. Only 10% of the potency is lost. Are you getting the point? Because the angle between the muscle pull and the tendon is lesser than 30, so the potency of the muscle pull is retained by 90%. What is the advantage of pinnate muscle? Pinnate muscle is much, much stronger than parallel muscle. Okay? Much, much stronger, not just much stronger. Much, much stronger than parallel muscle. That's why, but because there's only 90% potency and the muscle fiber individually are short, the range of muscle movement is lesser. Muscles can only move to 2/3 of its original size. Parallel muscle is a long fiber. When it reduces 20%, 30% of its original size, it is a significant movement. Pinnate muscles have much lesser movement. So strength is gained, shortening is sacrificed. In parallel muscle, strength is weak, but has got a greater range. That's why some muscles are parallel, some are pinnate, where it requires greater strength. That's why many of the lower limb muscles are bipinnate, multipinnate, etc., because it requires to sustain the body weight. Whereas upper limb muscles are usually, most of them are parallel, few exceptions are always there, most of them are parallel, that gains the strength, range of movement. Upper limb requires greater range, lower limb requires greater strength. Now, if we talk about, let's say, Shah Rukh Khan, Akshay Kumar, are these heroes or villains? Some movies they act as heroes, some movies they act as villains. So, different movies they have different roles. That does not mean that they are bad or they are good. Similarly, muscles also play different functional roles. Muscles also play different functional roles. So, let's talk about the action of flexion at elbow. Flexion at elbow. That is a decided action. That's the name of the movie. Flexion at elbow. Who is helping in flexion of elbow? Biceps. So biceps is called as an agonist. It is also called as prime mover. Prime mover is same as agonist. By definition, an agonist or a prime mover is a muscle that initiates and propagates a desired movement. A muscle that initiates and propagates a desired movement. So what is the desired movement here? Flexion at elbow. Who is the prime mover? Biceps. Now, the muscle that opposes the prime mover is called as antagonist. The muscle that opposes the prime mover is called as an antagonist. So in flexion of the elbow, who is the antagonist? Triceps, the muscle of the back. Okay? So muscle in front, biceps is agonist, triceps is antagonist. In the action of flexion of elbow, suppose the desired action is extension of a flexed elbow. The desired action is extension of a flexed elbow. Now who is the agonist? Triceps. And who is the antagonist? Biceps. So you can't say that biceps is always the agonist. You have to first define which movement are you considering. If the movement considers flexion of elbow, biceps is agonist, triceps is antagonist. If the desired movement is extension of elbow, triceps is agonist, biceps is antagonist. Now let me ask you another question. You are trying to lift up a dumbbell. Dumbbells, exercise. You are trying to lift up a dumbbell. Who is the agonist at elbow? Biceps. Who is the antagonist at elbow? Triceps. This is very easy. Now, you are keeping the dumbbell back down. Who is the prime mover? Wrong. If it was triceps, I would have asked this question. Gravity is the prime mover. Gravity is the prime mover. You don't have to keep the dumbbell down in outer space where there is no gravity. Then triceps will be the correct answer. In reality, when you are keeping the dumbbell down, gravity is the prime mover. Who is the antagonist? Biceps. If you are dropping the dumbbell down, gravity alone is there. But you are keeping the dumbbell gradually down. Triceps does not contract at all. Only biceps contracts at a force slightly lesser than that of gravity, and it keeps the dumbbell back down. Are you getting the point? So biceps was using in lifting the dumbbell, biceps is used for keeping the dumbbell back down. Only thing is, the force with which the biceps contract is desired by us. You want to lift the dumbbell, contract biceps with a power greater than that of gravity. Want to keep the dumbbells back gently down, contract the biceps with a force lesser than that of gravity. So slowly you can keep it back down. There is another muscle in the arm which is called brachialis. Brachialis is a muscle which you can't feel because it is completely hidden by biceps lying on its top. So brachialis is also a muscle which is a prime mover of flexion of elbow. So when you are flexing the elbow, biceps comes into play. When you are flexing the elbow, brachialis also comes into play. Both are called as prime movers because both can initiate and propagate the desired movement. Is it clear? So what is the difference between the role of biceps and brachialis? brachialis is inserted into ulna, biceps is inserted on the radius. So when brachialis contracts, elbow will flex. When biceps contracts, elbow will flex. But when biceps contracts, forearm will also supinate. Supinate means what? Palm facing upwards. Palm facing upwards is supination. Palm facing downwards is called pronation. Okay? So now, you are lifting up a glass of water to drink. Which muscle is responsible? Which muscle is the prime mover? Correct answer is brachialis. If biceps were to contract, the glass will supinate and the water will spill out. So biceps cannot contract. Only brachialis contracts. Are you getting the point? Biceps has got double role, flexion and supination. If biceps were to help in lifting of a glass filled with water and your forearm supinates, water will spill out. As we said, remember, muscles are not voluntary, involuntary. Movements desired by you is voluntary or involuntary. If it doesn't matter whether your forearm supinates or not, then biceps will come into play. But if you want to ensure that forearm does not supinate, then brachialis will come into action. Because brachialis can neither supinate nor pronate because it is inserted on the ulna, which is immobile in pronation supination. Only the biceps rotates during pronation supination. Is this point clear? Now, let us consider the desired movement is supination. Desired movement is supination. Which is a strong supinator? Biceps. But suppose you want to supinate but not flex. You want to supinate the elbow but not flex. This is exactly what is required by a carpenter when he is tightening a screw. When he is tightening a screw, the forearm supinates. But if the elbow flexes, then the screwdriver will be off the screw. We want pure supination without flexion. Who will cancel out biceps' flexion action? Triceps. So if biceps and triceps both contract together, flexion and extension both will cancel out each other. Net result, only supination. So biceps is flexor plus supinator, triceps is extensor. Contract both these two together, pure supination. Flexion, extension cancels out. So a muscle which cancels the undesired action of the prime mover is called as synergist. A muscle which cancels the undesired action of the prime mover is called as a synergist. It improves the efficiency of prime mover. It improves the efficiency of agonist. Is this point clear? Synergist is also sometimes called as partial antagonist. Synergy is also called as partial antagonist. Because one unwanted movement is cancelled, other unwanted movement is not cancelled. So partial antagonist. So don't confuse, don't always say triceps is antagonist to biceps. First you have to ask, which movement are you talking about? If you are talking about flexion at elbow, triceps is an antagonist to biceps. If you're talking about supination of the forearm, triceps become synergist to biceps. Triceps is a synergist. Biceps is the agonist, prime mover. For a muscle to have synergist, it must have two actions. Only then you can have partial antagonism. If a muscle gets got only one action, like brachialis has only one action, flexion and elbow. If it has got only one action, you can't have a synergy. Only if you have two actions and you want only one action to be brought about, then you will require a synergist to cancel the unwanted action. Is this point clear? So prime mover, if it has more than one action, either at one joint or more than one joint, and you want to perform only one action and not the other, then you require a synergist. Let me take another example. Here you are lifting a dumbbell in a prone position, and you want to lift the dumbbell in a prone position. Brachialis will come into play because brachialis is a pure flexor. Biceps can also come into play because it's also a flexor. But biceps also has got a role of supination. But you don't want to supinate. You want to bring about dumbbells lifting up only in prone position. Biceps were to come into play alone, it would also have turned the dumbbell. It would also have supinated. So, there is another muscle in the forearm, which is by the name called pronator teres. One of the muscles, which is shown here, pronator teres. This muscle, pronator teres, is named after the action it performs. What does it perform? Pronation. What is the shape? Cylindrical. Teres means cylindrical. So pronator teres is a cylindrical muscle which is pronating. If pronator teres and biceps both contract, biceps has got the action of supination, pronator teres is the action of pronation. So pronation and supination will cancel out each other. That result only flexion by biceps. So when you are lifting up a dumbbell in prone position, brachialis and biceps both act as prime mover and pronator teres acts as synergist to biceps to prevent the supination action of biceps. In contrast, if you are lifting up this dumbbell in a supinated forearm, if you are lifting up the dumbbell in supinated forearm, biceps and brachialis both go into contraction, but you don't require pronator teres to act because you want it in supinated position. Biceps has already done the supination. And then after it has exhausted its role of supination, you can't supinate beyond a certain point. You can't supinate beyond the anatomical position. After which it will be entirely used for flexion. So, whether synergist should contract or should not contract depends on the desired movement. Flexion of elbow in prone position, agonist or prime mover is brachialis and biceps, and to cancel the supination action of biceps, you have got a synergist called pronator teres. If you were to lift the dumbbell in supinated position, that's your desired action. Biceps and brachialis act as prime movers, act as agonists. But they don't require a synergist in that particular case. Is this point clear? That's the third role of a muscle. It can act as prime mover, it can act as antagonist, it can act as synergist. The synergistic action will come only if the prime mover has multiple actions. Let me give you yet another example of synergism. There are muscles which flex the wrist joint. There are muscles which extend the wrist joint. There are muscles which flex the fingers. There are muscles which extend the fingers. We are talking about 4 sets of muscles. Muscles which flex the wrist joint, muscles which extend the wrist joint, muscles which flex the fingers, muscles which extend the fingers. All these muscles lie in the forearm. All these muscles lie in the forearm and their tendons cross the wrist joint. Digital flexors cross the wrist joint and the digital joints. Digital extensors cross the wrist joint and cross the interphalangeal joints of the finger. Wrist flexors cross the wrist joint, do not cross the finger joints. Wrist extensors cross the wrist joint, but do not cross the joints of the fingers. Is it clear? Now let us say you want to make a powerful fist. You want to make a powerful fist. This is done by digital flexors. This is done by digital flexors. So digital flexors are prime movers. You are making a powerful fist. Digital flexors are prime movers. Digital extensors are antagonists. They will open the fist. Digital extensors are antagonists. But try to flex your elbow completely. No, not elbow. Try to flex your wrist completely. Flex the wrist completely. Now try to make a fist. The fist is not as effective as when your wrist is extended. When your wrist is extended, the fist is more powerful. When the wrist is flexed, the fist is weakened. So why does this happen? Digital flexors cross the wrist as well as the interphalangeal joints of the fingers. If its power is used up in flexion of the wrist, there is not much power left for making a fist. So the wrist extensor, not the digital extensor, the wrist extensor keeps the wrist extended, increasing the efficiency of the prime mover to make a powerful fist. Wrist extensors are called as synergists because they have cancelled the undesired action of the prime mover, which is flexion of the wrist. You just want to make a fist. You have not been told whether your wrist should be extended or flexed. But you automatically realize only if the wrist is extended, your fist becomes really powerful. You might have seen some scene in the movie where a villain is holding the knife and the hero is holding his wrist, trying to prevent the knife from killing him. And what you see, he is trying to push the knife behind from his body. Wrong knowledge of anatomy. Because if you extend his wrist, his grip becomes powerful. What you should do is bend the wrist and flex the wrist. His grip weakens and the knife falls off. Then you can pick up the knife and stab it. If only they had known that wrist flexion is actually weakening the grip. Pull the knife towards you. Wrist flexed, grip weakens, knife falls, and you are safe. Okay? What is this role? This is the sinner. What do you say? By extending his wrist, you are synergistically helping him. By flexing his wrist, it weakens the grip. This example understood? The three roles we have already discussed: prime mover, antagonist, synergist. The fourth movement is called as fixator. When biceps and triceps are going into contraction for elbow and radioulnar movement, forearm, you want to make sure that one attachment of the muscle is fixed. You want to make sure that shoulder joint does not move. Your desired movement is elbow joint. You don't want shoulder joints to move. Deltoid muscle keeps the shoulder joint stiff. Deltoid muscle, not just deltoid, it also other muscles also which are attached to humerus, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, teres major. All these muscles stabilize the shoulder joint so that one action, one attachment of the muscle remains fixed. If the one attachment of the muscle remains fixed, then it can act more efficiently at the distal joint. So when the prime mover is acting at a distal joint, the muscle which stabilizes the origin of the prime mover, the muscle which stabilizes the origin of the prime mover is called as fixator muscle, to make the prime mover more efficient. Now for deltoid, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, teres major, all and subscapulary, all these are making the elbow joint steady. Remember, fixator is never one single muscle. Fixator is a group of muscles which stabilizes the proximal joint. Now how can these muscles act effectively for stability? These muscles can act effectively for stability if the scapula is fixed. So rhomboides major, rhomboides minor, trapezius, all these muscles keep the scapula steady. So they act as fixators to fixators. Let me tell you why fixation is important. You have played the game of arm wrestling? Arm wrestling? Panja? In Panja, when you are winning, what is the movement and where is the movement? Panja, not hammer. What is the movement and where is the movement? The movement is medial rotation of shoulder. There is no movement in elbow, there is no movement in wrist. It's a medial rotation of shoulder. Is it clear? Keep your elbow flexed and turn the arm inwards and outwards. And the same thing what happens in arm wrestling. So you thought, the people say, I won the arm wrestling, I have got strong biceps. Poor knowledge of anatomy. Biceps flexes the elbow. It does not rotate the shoulder. In arm wrestling, you should say, I have got strong pectoralis. Pectoralis major helps you in medial rotation in shoulder. Strong pectorals means winning at arm wrestling. If you notice, when somebody is giving you a tough fight in arm wrestling, you hold your breath. You hold your breath, if you start breathing normally, your arm wrestling becomes weak. You hold your breath. What is the purpose of holding the breath? Holding the breath fixes the rib cage. By fixing the rib cage, pectoralis major can act more effectively. So muscles which fix the rib cage are called as fixators. Muscles which fix the rib cage, fix the origin of pectoralis, making it more effective. That's a fixator. So group of muscles which stabilize the origin of prime mover. A rest group of muscles which stabilizes the proximal joint so that the prime mover can act effectively at a distal joint is called as fixator. Let me repeat the four roles. Prime mover or agonist, a muscle which initiates and propagates a desired movement. That a desired movement is important. Antagonist, the muscle which opposes the prime mover. Synergist, a muscle which cancels the unwanted, undesired movement of the prime mover. Fixator are groups of muscles which stabilize the origin of the prime mover, which stabilize the proximal joint to allow the prime mover to act effectively at a distal joint. Is this point clear? Prime mover can be one or more than one. Synergist can be one or more than one. Antagonist can be one or more than one. But fixator are always many. Fixator cannot be one. One will move the joint. Two opposing groups of muscles can stabilize the joint. Is this clear? This was about the roles which the muscle play. The next component that we are going to discuss is kinesiology. Look at the muscle which is arising from the arm. The right hand side inclined bone is the humerus, and the horizontal two bones are radius and lumbar. Look at the muscle which has been labeled as spurt. It's not the name of the muscle. This muscle, when it contracts, and you vectorially divide the contraction of that muscle into two components. One is towards the joint, transarticular component. The other is at right angles to it. That's called as transaxial component. The line of muscle pull can be divided into, or the spurt muscle, into two components. Transarticular, that means towards the joint, that means parallel to forearm bone. And the other component, it is at right angles to the forearm bone. Okay? Obviously, by the direction of vector, you will realize that the transaxial component is a very small component. No, transarticular component is a small component. And the a component which is at right angles to the forearm bone is a bigger component for the muscle which is labeled here as spur. Such a muscle which has got a greater swing component, swinging the joint, is called as a spurt muscle. Muscle which has got a greater swing component is called as a spurt muscle. Look at the other muscle, which is almost parallel to forearm bone. Almost, but not completely. Its line of muscle pull can also be divided into transarticular component parallel to forearm bone and at right angles to the forearm bone. You will realize that the second muscle, which is shown on the left side, has got a bigger shunt component. The component which is transarticular is called shunt. Shunting means stabilizing, bringing the bones together. Shunt component is greater. Its spurt component or swing component is minimal. So that muscle is called as shunt muscle. Muscle which has got bigger swing component is called spurt muscle. A muscle which has bigger shunt component is called a shunt muscle. Shunt muscles are not primarily designed for movement. They are meant for stability. Spurt muscles are the ones which are responsible for the movement. Is this clear? A third component, which is not shown here, a third component which is not shown here is the component which is tangential to the forearm and at right angles to it. Tangential to the forearm and at right angles to it, which means it is either coming out of the paper or going into the paper. That component is called as spin component. Spin. It is responsible for rotation. Spin component is responsible for rotation. Every muscle has all three components because no muscle is geometrically perfect. Those muscles which are vertically running, the tangential spin component will be minimal. But as you said, no muscle is geometrically perfect figure. All muscles have got some swing component, some shunt component, and some spin component, although one of them can be very minimal. Like for example, brachialis, inserted on Allah. Allah cannot rotate. Brachialis, even if it has a spin component, can't bring about rotation because Allah does not rotate. But mathematically, it will have the three components. Okay? If a muscle has got a bigger spin component, it is called as a spin muscle. So I will repeat again. Kinesiologically, the three components are called swing, shunt and spin. And the muscle which has got bigger swing component is called spurt muscle. The other muscle which has got bigger shunt component is called as a shunt muscle. And a muscle which has got bigger spin component is called as spin muscle. Is this clear? And finally, we end the discussion with a discussion on levers. Notice the spelling. It's not, we are not talking about the organ which is there in the abdomen. We are talking about mechanics and levers. Physics is very much there in anatomy. Mathematics is also there. For those who have thought we have seen the end of physics and maths, it comes back with a bang. A seesaw is called as class 1 lever. A seesaw is called as class 1 lever. What happens here is load is on one side, power is on the other side, the joint is in between. Joint is also called as fulcrum of the lever. Load is labeled as L and power is labeled as P here. Power is sometimes also called as effort brought about by muscles. Here you realize that the head, gravity causes the head to flex. Gravity causes the head to flex. Extensors of the neck, they bring the head back up. So which is the fulcrum? Fulcrum is the vertebral column. Where is the load? Load is in front of vertebral column. That's why your neck flexes. And where is the effort? Effort is behind the vertebral column. So effort on one side, load on the other side, fulcrum in between is called as class 1 lever. Okay? So some muscles act as class 1. Remember, if you notice, people sitting in ST buses or trains, sitting, after some time they go out to sleep and the head goes down. There is a jerk, they get up. What happens is When the head flexes beyond a certain limit, the extensors get excessively stretched, so they go into contraction, make him erect again. Again he goes down. That shows gravity is anterior to the vertebral column. Extensor muscles are posterior to the right? Another type of liver is called as class 2 liver. Here, the fulcrum is at one end. Load is in between. And the power or the effort is at the other end. The diagram which is shown here is wheelbarrow, but another diagram which is easier to understand is a nut cracker. When you want to crack a nut, fulcrum is at one end, nut is in between, and your hand is away from it. So you have to exert less when you want to crack a nut in type 2 liver, class 2 liver. So there are some muscles which is shown here is you are standing on the tip of your toes. The ball of the great toe, which is touching the ground, is a fulcrum. The body weight passes in front of the ankle joint, load, and the calf muscles which are behind the ankle joint are power. So they help with lifting up the ankle as a class 2 liver. Body weight is in front of ankle but behind the ball of the great toe. Effort is far away. Power is far away. That's class 2 liver. The third type of liver is called as class 3 liver. Fulcrum at one end. Here, power is closer and the load is away. Here it has been, what is shown in the shovel, easier for you to understand, is a forceps. Forceps has got fulcrum at the back end, and your effort is close to the back end, but it produces a wide range at the front end to grasp a structure. Okay? Most of the anti-gravity muscles of the body are class 3, most. Insertion of the muscle is close to the joint and the load is away from it. Here it is shown lifting up a dumbbell. Muscle, brachialis and biceps are inserted just beyond the elbow, close to the elbow. Elbow is the fulcrum here. Close to the elbow is the muscle, the power, the effort, and far away is the weight. Most of the anti-gravity muscles are of class 3. Some are called as class 3. Some books have, instead of calling it class 1, they call it first class liver, then second class liver, then this becomes third class liver. Third class has got a different meaning altogether. What is that class 3 liver? So most of the body muscles, anti-gravity muscles that are useful for action is class 3. And so call it as third class. And it is a third class muscle and third class liver. Class 3 liver. Clear about this? With that we come to the end of the discussion on muscles. Are there any questions? There are no questions. You can continue remaining sitting here for your next class, which is more about joints, mechanics, muscles, movements, etc. Before we part, I will make one statement. Concentrate on the statement and tell me what it is meant. Wow, I need a drink. Alcoholic, of course, after the heavy lectures about quantum mechanics. wow, I need a drink. Alcoholic, of course, after heavy lectures involving quantum mechanics. When we meet sometime in future, I'll tell you what it means. Till that time, you have the time to think about what is the hidden meaning of this sentence. I don't drink alcohol. Have you stopped here? Anyone should go and call the surgeon?